This is the 5th episode of Developing Talent. It did get delayed a little because there were internet issues, and those may be continuing or maybe not, who knows. But we're just going to go ahead with it anyway. Excoundrel won't be joining us for this episode, but Seaz from Prime League will be joining us for this episode. He is the support for Big. Am I actually pronouncing your name correctly, by the way? Is it just Seaz?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's short term for Servus, which is like basically hello in Austrian.
Oh, okay. There you go. I didn't know that. So, Prime League, for anyone who doesn't know, is the combination of Germany, Austria, and where else?
Switzerland.
Switzerland. There you go. And yep, it won the vote, so we're doing that this week. Congratulations, by the way, on being first in the league again. This is the second split in the row for you. And you've had some pretty impressive performances on both those splits. I thought you were one of the more underrated supports in the ERLs last split for sure. And this split, it looks to me like you're getting a lot more freedom. But I'd like to know from your perspective, like how you view the difference in Big now versus Big last split. Because you obviously had some changes, right?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I think last split it was very dictated around the jungle. I think Karim was a very talkative jungler, I would say, where the whole game would base around him. While now, I think we have like the possibility to carry on every single lane. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the way that I viewed your team last split was that you basically had two modes of playing. In one mode of playing, Karim was like camping around SLT on some hyper carry champion, and he would just zoom up there at every possible opportunity. And Rika would play a bit more defensively towards bot side on those circumstances, and sometimes you would unlock Rika to be able to do that. Or you guys got a carry champion like Tristana on bot lane, and the roles would be reversed, right? Rika would maybe lean more towards top there, and Karim would be hyper zooming towards your lane. This split, it seems like you guys play, at least from my perspective, a bit more of a complete map. Your jungler now, goddamn, wait, I will remember his name. I'm terrible with names, so.
Akabane.
Yeah, thank you. He is actually playing through mid before he makes either of these plays, and you do that in a grouping with Rico. So there's a bit less on you to have to unlock Rico, and it seems much more like a 5-man play on all of them. Also, your top laner is just playing very phenomenally intelligent, no matter what side you guys are playing towards. Would you say that's accurate, or?
To be completely honest, I think at least from top lane wise, there's not that much difference from last split to this split. I think we have, in both cases, like mechanically really good players that are not only good if you play into them, but also decent on weak side.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, as you already said, we had some issues with Enzo being on weak side because he just like preferred to play on strong side, obviously. But over the split, this was fixed easily. So I don't think there's like a big difference in that regard. But jungle-wise, I think the biggest difference was, as I said, that we had like a really talkative jungler at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And now with Akabane, we had to like integrate him into our system, which took a bit. But I think now we can easily like start from where we left off.
Right, nice. Orcs, what do you think about Big then, and what Seaz has been saying?
Yeah, I think I think from what you said, the whole map thing makes a lot of sense. I feel like Rico, when he's been on like his TF performance recently, I feel like when he's on a pick that can sort of move and apply that pressure outwards, the team functions well, because I think there is that element of being able to play for either side. I also think individually you have been pretty solid. I think your roam timings have been pretty good and have really helped the team gel together. Yeah, I think they've been pretty solid. I think it's kind of expected with them being in first place.
I mean, when it comes to the jungle change, because you cite that a lot, and cite how that lets the map play out more. Do you think that you yourself, as a 2v2 laner, have been able to play more 2v2 lane maybe than last split?
You mean now compared to?
Now compared to last split.
Not necessarily. I think even last split we were like low-key the only bot lane that was looking for skill checks permanently. Like we wanted to fist fight as much as possible. That didn't change. I think that maybe compared to last split, me and Karim across the map a lot together, and now it's more of a like we do rotations with Kidui included, or me and Rika do it stuff alone while Akaban is doing his own thing. I think it's a bit more freedom, as you mentioned at the very beginning, but overall, I think it's not that much of a difference.
Do you think you two, because you say you skill check most other bot lanes, do you view you two as one of the strongest bot lanes, or do you think there's another bot lane that matches up to you, or maybe even outperforms you in the Prime League?
Prime League?
Just in Prime League for now. Just in Prime League.
I mean, to be honest, last split it was very, very fun to lane against Gadget and Java. I think they were really, really strong, and I think Java himself was very, very good. Now with Camillus, I think they they found a very similar player to him, and they are like probably on the same level. So I would say that this is like the only bot lane that could challenge us. Back when Lille was still playing SK, I think him and Unforgiven was also a strong duo. But besides from that, I don't think that any bot lane is like this outstanding, you know?
Okay.
What do you think of Penta's bot lane?
Funky Lion?
Yeah.
I think I don't know how to say this. I think they're not bad, you know. But they still have some time to develop, you know. Like they come straight out of first division, where I also came from. But for me, like I have Kidui on my side, who plays like a little bit on a higher level for a longer time, so I can rely on him knowing what we have to do. He like micromanaged me a lot last bit as well.
Okay.
So I could get on this level. But I think probably a top 3, top 4, something like that.
What do you think about Pentanet's bot lane then, Orcs?
I thought they've looked pretty good for the games I've looked at. I think for the team as a whole, I think their bot lane and their jungler have kind of been the standouts. I think it's kind of like the way Leon and Vulture connect together, and I think Leon's had really good roam timings, and I think they can use that to get Funky ahead, and then he's been like a really solid carry for the most part. I think kind of like they've obviously been really successful in the league, and I feel like those are the standout components. So I kind of had them down as a pretty good bot lane, and they've had some good 2v2 moments as well.
I definitely agree on the Gadget Camillus take. And something that everyone was wondering about Gadget would he be able to function without just going for mages all the time? Right? That was what he was known for in Russian League, etc. That didn't always work out. It definitely looks a lot better this split. There was a Cogmore game he played recently where I actually thought he played laning phase really, really well. But the rest of the league seems to just be a massive mage party in the bot lane right now. Prime League is very, very, very unique with this, but you guys are still going with the classics, right? You're still going with your Callistas. If Tristana is ever left open, you'll still go for that. How do you view this like massive AP bot meta that everyone and their mum seems to be going for? Not just the Venza and Hyanan who've always gone for these, but even like Unforgiven's now coming in with all this stuff. Like everyone's going in for mages. How do you view that meta shift on bot?
I mean, I think in general, like the 6 that was upcoming for quite a while, it looks very, very strong. I think it's one of the strongest bot laners actually you can pick. It's like self-sufficient, while you can snowball the game so fucking fast if you get the Herald. That's like, I think the only mage in my opinion is like insanely strong. Seraphine was good for a time, like back in last bit, but I don't think she has any prio left. And I think that's it actually. I don't see that any other mage would be this strong. Am I mistaken? Like, am I missing something?
It's not that they're strong, but they are picks. So, for example, in the last week, both Karthus and Xerath were also picked. Seraphine still does have really high priority in the league.
Well, I mean, for Seraphine, I think it's very outdated. I don't see how she should be picked in any scenario. But this Karthus or this, let's say Heimerdinger for Hyanan or something, which is known for, this I think a lot of niche picks, you know. And these kind of picks you have to respect, because you don't really get data on them, because you don't scrim usually versus a team who plays these types of champs frequently. So the solution to it would probably be that we just ban them. Other than that, it's actually very hard to handle them.
Really? Okay, so you don't scrim just primarily Prime League teams then?
You don't scrim any Prime League teams.
You don't scrim any Prime League teams at all?
No.
Is that common in Prime League?
I'm not too sure because this is also my only second split in the Prime League in the
think
Pro Division. But
I've
as far as I know, you don't scrim your own league unless you 100% know that you're not gonna face them again.
Sure.
Yeah,
Ox?
I've heard that from a lot of ERL teams where they don't scrim their own league because they get plenty of scrims at like a similar level, and then obviously they don't want to give information to the competition. So I know like a lot of NLC teams are exactly the same.
So, on that then, why is this such a specific Prime League phenomenon? Are there any theories on that? For example, you brought up they don't think Seraphine should be so high priority. She's actually the most picked of all of the AP champions by a pretty significant margin. Yeah, by a pretty significant margin.
In Prime League? What?
Yeah, in
I
Prime
can't
League.
remember. But this split or last split?
This
is
split
the question.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bot lane Seraphine games.
Who played that? I only when it only comes the Schalke game into my mind where
Kinetic,
who else played it?
Jinjo, I watched that game. Kinetic again, Hyanan, obviously. King.
Okay, actually, it's true.
King played it.
XNG,
Yeah.
yes.
King played it twice actually. So yeah,
Yeah, okay.
those are Unforgiven
I
as
think-
well. Unforgiven as well.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy to me. Maybe I don't even watch my own
Okay.
league, so. I mean,
doesn't watch his own league. Whatever.
No one watches no one swims their own league, no one watches their own league. He's gonna end up picking Seraphine next week, but what the fuck? Who picks Seraphine?
no, I think in a lot of those teams, for example, you brought up Evi and stuff like this. These are like very specific teams, you know. I think Evi is the kind of team who never plays around side lanes, who legit don't even know what top lane and bot lane is after the 50-minute mark. These are like teams that like to skirmish a lot, that like to 5v5, 4v4 fight you. And in these types of comps, it actually like a Seraphine would fit, you know. Like you get your first power spike around that margin, and then you just press R basically, or press W in the fight. And for these types of teams, I can actually see how it can work out, but I don't know. I don't value this pick.
Okay. I mean, this also fits with what you were saying about Herald, right? And about teams trying to play heavy with Zig's priority to Herald. But even the Xerath game that Hyun was playing, for example, they basically utilized the Xerath to give their support priority on Roam's top for the initial Herald play. A lot of these AP carries are used to basically gift them control of top side of the map on Herald. That's also a very Prime League specific thing. Prime League basically always explodes around Herald in early game when it does at all. Yep. That might be a bit down to the AP champions now that you bring up that point. But how do you view that as like always the kind of optimal way to play to beta fight around Herald, or is the Herald actually something that you guys think is high priority? Because I personally don't value Herald that much, but
I mean,
Prime League teams
for us, at least for me, it was a lot of work with coaching staff in that regards, where we would watch a lot of LCK, not that much LPL back then, where it was basically always the downborn Herald, you know. Every time around 8 minutes, Beryl is sitting in this bush waiting for enemies to face check, and then they're gonna punish them. And I think I kind of did the same thing, or like used to do the same thing, where we used to, or we still value Herald a lot, because I think it helps us a lot to open up the map and extend our leads, create our snowball effect that we usually do in our early game, where we come very far ahead with our gold leads. And therefore, I think that Herald, for us at least, has a lot of value. Not that familiar how other teams value it at the moment, but usually it's like when, at least from a bot lane POV, if you don't have prio, you drop the first Drake, you maybe even drop the second Drake, and then you look to fight at Herald. And if you have the stronger 4v4 and don't need your ADC, then you're winning the game there. If the enemy team is willing to fight. And if you need your ADC, you look to push out one bot wave, move with your AD towards mid, stall the Herald, and then fight at Herald.
That's really interesting, actually. That it comes from, like, at least on your parts, LCK VOD reviews. There was a German team years ago, the old Mouse lineup that had Tolkien on top lane, and Kaiser, who back then was called Gistic on bot lane. It had Knight mid. That team was actually very characteristic for always forcing around initial Herald, and they played with an AP bot as well. Konjo was going picks like Swain, right? So that actually makes me wonder how much of this is a product of like VOD reviews of LCK, or maybe how much of it's a product of like the meta that's appeared there. But now that you're telling me that like these teams don't really scrim each other, this is now like a bit of a mystery to me how all of these guys have developed a very similar play, so you can almost tier it. Like I like the way you talked about Eevee, for example. They they basically always go for the same herald play. They're actually very good at setting up the herald play. They're not very good at anything afterwards, but they're very good at setting up the herald play. They're also not very good at the laning phase beforehand, but they're very good at setting up the herald play, and they basically pivot everything around that. And that got them a lot of advantages because everyone always matches them on it. Do you have like your own specific reasonings on what herald itself gives you? Or is it really the fight that you're going for? Is it really the picks that you're going for? Because it seems to me if a team just decided not to opt into it, gift them an objective that does take time, take resets off of that, maybe let them get 2 plates that are shared between 2 people later on. Like, I feel like you'd benefit more from that, especially XP-wise, and especially on scaling comps.
I mean, I think it's very, very situational. You can't like generalize stuff like this. It always comes down to what picks you have, obviously. Like if you have priority bot lane, you can just stack the first 2 drakes and then give even the herald to play for third, because most of the time when people invest for herald, if you have a cross map where, for example, the enemy ADC has to move, your ADC can get 2 plates for free, enemy ADC loses 3 waves or like 2 waves, you will always get something like on the other hand, you know?
Yeah.
If you actively look for something like that. So in my opinion, it just really comes down to the map stat if you can look for herald or not. So therefore, you would have to judge that it comes down to support having tempo on the map. For example, if you can push out a wave, or if you just for the sake of herald drop a wave on support, just base earlier so you can be there. If you have winning 3v3 on top side, you have basically secured herald where you just 2v2 clash on bot. I think there's like a lot of factors that come into that.
And you think that if you have those scenarios in place where herald is sort of a free objective, at the very least you'll always have priority in it, you should just go for it. You think it's that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in our case at least, it's that we the second we have herald, it opens up the map for us a lot. We can like look actively for plays where we, for example, do a rotation where we can end up in the herald play where we can get the full turret, stuff like that. I think we are really, really good at like preparing the next 2 steps while already being on the same on the current objective, you know, where we can like make up good plans for the next upcoming minutes and therefore get our gold lead.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you what specifically those plans are, but that's actually really interesting. Orcs, thoughts on what Seaz has been saying?
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting just the whole fact that like so many teams are contesting herald, and I feel like it, I feel like that's such a punishable factor. As you sort of saying that, as you sort of said, how you can leave your AD carry on the boss side, get those 2 free plates. I feel like that would often end up favoring out against a lot of the teams in the league if they were committing to heralds and not setting up properly, and they were just taking that regardless. But then, as you said, EV, even though they're being a little bit rough recently, are still doing a good job of setting up around those. So I guess maybe it's just like if everyone else in the league is doing it, you kind of adapt to that.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of relates similarly to the whole mages in the bot lane. Like if you're getting smashed by teams who are picking these, I think it can make sense that you'd try them out yourself.
If it's working, it's working. It just reminds me a lot of way back in like season 6 when we were watching like LCK lane swaps all the time, and it just felt like they had an agreement on certain things, and I didn't understand why they kept agreeing to it. They did it a very specific, systemic way, and the constant it's another Prime League game where the whole game's exploded at Herald it's unique to them, and it's quite it's a curiosity. But you guys don't scrim within Prime League, you scrim other leagues then. So I could actually ask you where you think you match up, at least in scrims, right, versus other bot lanes. Or maybe your EU Masters experience told you that there were other bot lanes that you thought challenged you, or the ones that really caught your eye.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like even before EU Masters, you scrim those EU Masters teams. So we had a lot of experience against LFL teams, we scrimmed some NLC teams, we scrimmed some LVP teams, so I think we had a pretty good grasp at what bot lanes like really stood out. And like back then, I think like best bot lanes by far were like Misfits, it was K-Corp, was there an LVP bot lane? I actually don't remember. I think UCAM was pretty good as well.
UCAM's bot lane? With Flackid?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, UCAM's bot lane with Profit and Plasma.
Okay, interesting. None from NLC, none from...
I mean, we scrimmed a lot, actually, Excel quite a lot as well. And yeah, actually, their bot lane was pretty good as well, when I think about it. Like, Deadly and Atvian were pretty good, yeah.
When you scrim internationally now, have you scrimmed Jack Spectra's bot lane over in Superliga?
It's Jack Spectra, White, and no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've scrimmed them?
Yes.
What do you think?
Not sure how much I'm allowed to say, you know.
I mean, just say good, bad. You don't have to be like, well, they do this specific thing wrong, and I think I can take on them every time on it, or something.
I mean, I really respect that they're down to fist fight. Yeah. That's all I wanna say.
Okay, fair enough.
You gotta read between the lines.
Yeah, read between the lines. Respect it.
Yeah.
They went for the skill check. They went in there like men. No chance you've scrimmed Natter's bot lane, have you?
Natas?
Yeah, Natter.
That's E-Monkeys, right?
Yeah.
Don't think so, no.
Okay. All right.
Not as far as I can remember.
All right. I would have loved to have heard the answer to that. Okay. So we've gone over big. We've gone over bot lanes in general, where you just skill check them a ton, and we've gone over the ones that have sparked your eye. On stage so far in Prime League, have there been any other than the Gadget one and other than the King one that we talked about? Let's say Kinetic and Tolerant, for example. What did you think of them? Oh, he laughed.
I don't know. There was like this meme, you know, back at when EU Masters was coming and when all the French. Actually, there was like French invasion Prime League as well, with Nuclear being around, like everyone was watching, and there was this meme around the Spotland where everyone was just like writing in Twitch chat at that point, "If I speak," you know. And I think this says a lot about their bot. I'm not saying that they are like bad or anything. I think they are just they are a bit of psychos, you know. And sometimes it works really well for them, and sometimes it doesn't.
So they skill check as well.
Yeah,
They just lose
that's
it.
called it's vicious.
Alright, fair enough. So when it comes to teams in general, what do you think is like the next best team not called Mouse Sports?
Not called Mouse Sports.
Yeah, that's in the league. We'll get on
I mean,
to
it's actually a hard one. I honestly think Penta is doing really well right now. Compared to last bit. I don't even know why that's the case. Like, straight up, I don't think they improved this much. I actually think the other teams just played worse, like by far worse. But I guess if they stay on the same level and the other teams get worse, they improve a little bit. I don't know, like heads off to them or something. I don't know. But in general, I think Penta should be third. There's like the only other teams that are like there is like Gamer Legion, like playoffs. Who else? EV. Fuck man, I don't even remember. It's actually crazy.
Definitely doesn't watch.
You gotta watch the league.
I think SK is in there as
you
well or
mentioned
something.
them, but they've obviously switched to quick timer now, and you think that's a downgrade. So
Yeah, I think they did by far better for sure.
No.
I honestly like I can't even judge it like this. I can't say that Lilip is the better player than Quicktimer, but it's just like obviously if Lilip and Unforgiven have played like for so long together already, it's gonna make a difference if like a new player comes in. You know, it doesn't matter if he's on same level, if he's like a little bit better, a little bit worse. There's gonna be a huge difference in that regard. So I can't really judge now how good they are. We're gonna see next week actually. But from what I've seen, it's like the adaptation in the team itself was very hard so far. I think they went 0-3 or something.
yeah, I mean they dropped to some of the bottom teams as well, right? They dropped to Unicorns, etc. Like it's and I don't know, when watching this team, like even when they had Lip, I think that there were things that they did that would end up exposing them later on. I just felt like they had such strong lanes in general, it wouldn't really matter. Mouse Sports, I think, by the way, is a really, really extreme version of that. But I think that the problem with SK is that they're quite a reactive team. They're not a team that's like, okay, we're gonna like fist mid and then just dive bot repeatedly or something. They're like, okay, this team's trying to fist mid, we're gonna respond to it way better than them and we're gonna win the ensuing skirmish. And as a result, they strike me as a team whose kryptonite would be teams that have like really strong top jungle duos or mid jungle duos, or even play like 3-man mids, right?
This is actually something that is quite common in Prime League though. I feel like a lot of teams are just going with the flow, you know.
Yeah.
Like if the game is going in their favor, then they're going to finish out the game. If it's not, then they're probably going to lose. Like I feel like that not a lot of teams are actually I don't know how to say this, like putting in the effort to win the game. As
Sure.
stupid as it sounds, by the way. Like it feels like the game is really like just boring. For example, even though it's like kind of passive aggressive, my last tweet against Schalke when we played them, it legit felt like we're just finishing the game in the next 25 minutes and nothing is happening. There was
Sure.
one scenario where Schalke was fighting back, but for the rest of the game, it legit felt like we're just rolling over them. And I don't even think that they're like a bad team or anything. I think they can they can easily like challenge us in a lot of regards, but
I
a lot
don't
of
disagree.
a lot of games look so weird because it feels to me that there's not even like a good cross map coming in when we do a play, and but for some teams it's like only cross maps. There's like never a proactive play on their side. And I'm not sure if this is related to draft, if my coach is just the best coach in Europe or something. I don't know. Like it feels really weird actually.
More of
like-
it seems more of a, actually you go on.
I feel like that might, because we were talking about Penta, and I feel
Yeah.
like when I've looked at them, they have been proactive for setting plays, and I think Leon and Rolfton have done a really good job of that. So maybe tying into that, that's why they're doing better than a lot of
Yeah,
other teams.
maybe this can actually be a good point. Yeah.
I definitely think they're more proactive. I worry about their initial setups on Penta. Like I think there are a number of teams there that don't seem to think about early jungle pathing relative to their lanes and the best way to execute them to expose as much as possible. And they seem to be a team that has that particular issue. They rely a lot more on Phantomless being able to unlock himself, which is like the only reason why they're able to make picks like Ahri work, you know, because with Ahri, it's actually very easy to at least get a wave reset for you to move on towards a side lane or something. And then on that, they end up being proactive. But I view that a bit, that is one where I think you could blame draft. I think with teams like SK Prime, it's not really a draft issue, and it's just more how they are viewing the map. And I think this was present even when they were winning the whole thing, right? Like there was a time where SK Prime looks like they could contest for like winning the league, being top 1, top 2, top 3. And that's obviously collapsed recently. But they did look like that initially, and I think those same flaws there still exist now. They just have really, really good lanes. And I would expect a team like Unicorns to be able to do something against them. Because if you're taking a trip to top only when something's already happening, but Kadir and Sleeping are just going to try to turbo fist on the first possible opportunity, and they always path accordingly for that, yeah, then suddenly Alois, it doesn't matter how good he is at Camille anymore, right? Or how good he is at split pushing, if he's not even going to get through these first parts of the game. I feel like Maus are that on crack, by the way. Like, I feel like Maus have 3 really, really strong lanes, but Pride Stalker's kind of absent. And if anything, and this was true last split, he demands a lot from his laners. I just feel like they have laners that can compete with that. I don't feel like I look at a team that is like free-manning mid into proactive dive plays or something. What do you think?
I mean, for example, last split, especially with leaders still being on the roster, there was like 2 resources coming in, especially on mid and jungle. What was happening a lot was tutorials like playing champions that are like self-sufficient that don't even need that much farm. So he like freezes 2 waves and the jungle comes top and collects them. It was really weird. The plays there in general, and I remember Enzo SLT being like really mad about something like that actually. But it worked for them, you know. And if it works, it works. We showed them in the finals that like we can beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And at the EU Masters, we got a quick reality check that we should not leave cards open. We still left it open and lost the last match against them. So we are prepared for playoffs for sure.
Okay. Orcs, what do you think about mouse sports?
I thought Sartorius and Shekelar. I thought Shekelar has been really on point recently. I think that team fighting's been really good. I think there's a lot of games where it feels like the enemy team just even if they're doing okay in the earlier stages, just gets absolutely wiped when it comes to fights as well. But I feel like the point as well you said about having the strong laners. I feel like if that as a strategy struggles to translate to EU Masters, where there tends to be more competition in terms of those laners, unless your laners are really just like that cracked.
I mean, I watch them and I feel like Big just play the map better, right?
Yeah.
By the way, just saying play the map better is the nice way of saying that, you know, you do something and other people don't do anything, by the way. That's the nice way of saying it. But when I watch them, so Chekolad, for example, has been really on point, but like he recently played Irelia into Akali, I think it was, and there were like multiple times where he literally has no mana in lane at all. He needs jungler for reset, and Pride Stalker's just chilling in jungle AFK, and Camilius has to translate their priority bot into that reset, if anything. Otherwise it becomes a bit of a flip sometimes, and I feel like there's a lot of circumstances like that. Sartorius had those all the time last split and still does. And I feel like if you're a team that actually plays the map for resets, which you really should be doing, as 5, then you'll end up beating them in the long run unless they just fist you in the first levels, which is always possible because they have phenomenal laners. They do. The only reason they can get away with this is they have phenomenal ones. But it feels like hubris a lot. It's like they know they can get away with things, so they just play to maximize resources on everyone. But if they're not allowed to do that, then I think they just lose. And I think there's a lot more holes open there in terms of how they play the map than with other teams. You just have to get past the skill check, I guess, as Seaz would say.
I think especially the last split, it came a lot down to that, what you just said. I think Mouse was the most aggressive team in the whole league, and the second we matched the aggression, we could see that we could actually like win fights, win skirmishes, and stuff like this. And I think it's actually really important to skill check people. Like sometimes they don't even expect it, and then you can come with the surprising factor, even come out of top, you know. And this helped us a lot last split. I think this split it's a little bit different. I think Camillus is a player who knowing that he has gadget on this lane, just not like FF spot lane, but like pieces out and like, okay, now I'm level 2 top lane, yo, I'm level 3 ganking mid from behind or whatever, like flashing under your turret. And this works pretty well for them. But I think same as for last split, if you can match something like that, if you can read the map, if you can read where your opponent is, I think you can punish something like that for sure.
Okay, so that would lead me onto a team that I actually do think plays map quite well, and I think does have a support who recognizes he can piece out bot lane, especially with the picks his bot lane is picking, which is Gamer Legion. I actually think Gamer Legion are really good at this particular thing. I think Wisdom does a level of roaming that I only really see from players like Targamas outside of Prime League, right?
I actually wanted to comment on this because I remember last year, because Gamer Legion were in the finals against Rogue, and I actually remember looking at the VODs between Wisdom and I completely blanked. Who wrote Trimby, and I felt like Trimby just played the map so much better at the time. I felt like Wisdom wasn't really moving from the lane much or effectively, or when he did, it just kind of felt like it's like, oh, I know I don't need to be in lane, but I'm not doing anything else. But I feel like from watching the games of the Prime League, he's gotten a lot better at it since then.
Yeah,
I feel like he's massively improved, which is like really cool to see, because I think that was something I actually thought was going to be the difference between those two teams in the EUM finals was their support making that impact. So I really think he should deserve a lot of credit for that.
What do you think, Seaz, about Wisdom and Gamer Legion?
I mean, at least I've been told from Avendir that big oversets is like Gamer Legion curse, you know, where you just lose to them no matter what. So I'm like kind of used to it, you know? Last split as well, we like the first round, like the first round we lost to them, the second one we won. I think what really makes Gamer Legion shine is just that they have like such a unique champion pool, you know. You have a top laner who's like super fine on weak side, you have an ADC who's super fine on weak side, and you have a jungle mid that can shine with like a lot of creative picks who you can put high resources into, and the support who can like roam around the map, as you just said.
Yeah.
So I think this is for sure a style that if you can't match it, and if you do one mistake, they will punish you a lot for it. For example, I remember the game that we played, it was Tristana Leona versus Seraphine Alistair, I think. Coming back to your Seraphine pick.
Back to Seraphine, boys.
It
you
was
can't
actually,
escape.
We were getting like mid prio, we're shifting towards Drake to take it. And at the same time, where we were like still on the Drake, we were like thinking about another play on bot where we could maybe punish the enemy bot lane. And while we were fighting on bot, enemies contested us as Drake because the Seaz was fighting on bot, and therefore knew that it was like contestable. And we got Drake stolen, we all died, and the game was just over from there, you know. So I think it's like one of the teams that actually like contest stuff and that punish you for mistakes while shining with like creative picks, creative drafts.
I really view them as like the smart team, right? Not in terms of that they're like significantly smarter than Big, but in terms of that I think they're significantly smart enough to get away with having laners who I don't necessarily think are the best, right? I wouldn't put Phones in like a top 5 ERL or Knight even on like a top 5 ERL. That sometimes this guy can't even hit Irelia, right? Like this isn't a team of players where I would expect them to just like mechanically skill check and outplay everyone, but they play so well together as 5, right?
Yeah.
I feel like if you combine them and Mouse Sports, then you have like an almost perfect team. And I feel like Big is the team that tries to combine being both smarter and the map with actually having really good lanes, right?
I actually think that you can compare Gamer Legion and Eevee a little bit, you know?
Yes.
Whereas Gamer Legion is the smarter Eevee, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense a lot, actually. Like, the EV's being carried a lot more by their map movements than anything else, for sure. Like, these guys will routinely just have massive deficits in lane, and they are deserved deficits. And it's not that they're playing the map unintelligent to get to that point. It's just that EV seems to have very specific points in the game that they know how to play well.
Yeah.
I feel like Gamer Legion just know how to play the game well. They know how to play League of Legends as 5. It's weird that they're both equal right now, but Gamer Legion will just outscale all these teams. I feel like this is a team I could always bet on in playoffs to be at least top 3, right? For sure. So, yeah. What do you think about Hyun and Wisdom as a bot lane then? Or do you not really get to play against Hyun and Wisdom as a bot lane? You just play against wave clearing Xerath and Leon as top for some reason?
I mean, I think Hyun really deserves a respect Heimerdinger ban. I think his Heimerdinger is on another level from what I've been able to tell when watching other Prime League games. But in general, I don't know. I think the reason why they're actually really good is because I think actually they played so long together that they just know what they want to do. The synergy between those two is actually really, really on point. Whereas Wisdom knows when he has to help Jan, without Jan even having to tell him, you know. While, for example, in us, when I want to look for a play on mid or run out of plays into mid lane and I miss for 1 second that there's 5 CS which my ADC cannot touch. My ADC is screaming, "Yo, come on!" I think maybe they have this going for them.
Sure, but that's just time, right? That's just time and experience. You'll get there eventually. Eventually, you'll be able to read Kadui's "no" in your head instead of having to have him say it. Yeah, it'll be perfect.
I feel like it's so weird though that because obviously Shannon's always been known for these picks and brought them out a lot, but this season he's just only played that in the bot lane. He had a Senna game, and then everything else is just AP champions. And I feel like it's kind of, he's kind of looked out because obviously they got the reduction in mage mythics cost, but I also feel like maybe it's just a sign of the meta because I feel like there's a lot of good AD mid laners or champs trying to flex there. And I feel like the AP jungle pool took a hit, so maybe that's a factor. I just think it's because I remember when it was kind of Conjo when you were talking about before when he was playing a lot of mages bot lane for Mouse, and I kind of felt like they didn't. It almost seemed like they wouldn't switch away from them. It kind of
it was a limitation on Conjo's part that they played around.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't know if it's going to be that way, but it feels like instead of being oh, we have this strength, we can bring in these picks. I'm could this be a weakness? Because I'm is Shannon willing to bring out 80 carries? Because it seems weird he hasn't brought out any at all.
I mean, I used to think that what happened was Hyanan joined the league. Venza was there at the same time on Unicorns, right? And Venza learned to play AP mages from scrimming Hyanan was how I always assumed. And that's how they ended up doing that. And then when I saw the absolute explosion of AP mages here, I thought maybe all of these guys have just learned in scrims. Obviously, that's not the case. Now I'm thinking they're all getting skill checks at Herald. And they're looking at the VODs and thinking, how are we getting skill checked at Herald? And they've all realised wave clear is actually king on bot lane. And I think that's more how it's spread, right? Rather than they all watch the same LCK games. Or that they're all scrimming, which would be the logical one. But whatever. We don't operate on that. The AD part, the AD jungle part is really interesting. You do see a lot of Viegos and obviously Rabble was playing Kha'Zix this week. And you get Nocturnes and you get Lees and stuff. But it's not like they've moved entirely away from it. But you definitely see AD champions here I wouldn't normally see. I think we've seen Kindred once in the LEC. The predominance of Kha'Zix is definitely unexpected. You still get a lot of Dianas though. But yeah, you would have to move into
I feel like a partner though is that kind of more so that there isn't as many AP because with Rumble getting removed, it's if you have an AD mid laner, if you want to pick Aurelia, Viego, Lucian, Lee Sin, if you want to put any of those mid lane, which I guess is Lee Sin's been nerfed a bit in lane, but you want to have an AP jungler, right? And you have Diana, Rumble's still okay, but did get nerfed. You can put Gwen in the jungle, but again, not the best AD contester. I feel the pool's quite small there, and if you are I feel sometimes, especially with Diana being such a high priority ban. Like we saw this a lot in the LPL where Diana's just massively prioritized because it frees you to put what you want in mid lane for the most part. And I think like I was thinking that could be a factor because in the current meta, I feel like there is sometimes a struggle to have enough AP on your team.
I think where it is for me on that, and I will ask you in a second, Seaz, don't worry, I haven't forgotten you here. Where it is for me is that I don't see a lot of tanks. I don't see a lot of people who are actually going to start building the level of resistances required. The one that I do see a lot is Irelia. But outside of that, I don't really see a lot that's going to care if you suddenly stack AP. And there are a lot of drafts here where they have like Seraphine bot and they haven't made up for the DPS anywhere else. So it does seem to me like they're not thinking compositionally, this is the strongest thing we can play in a team fight later and it will win lanes. It does look to me like they're heavy all-inning on this priority stuff early, sometimes to their detriment. Like the last time Eevee did it, and that's the team we've brought up here, is like they play certain areas properly and then fluff the rest. Their last draft that had Seraphine on bot had a Kali on mid and Renekton on top. Like there's no hyper carry here. There's no DPS here, right? It's just we're going to get priority bot and then we're going to transfer it towards Herald. You know, so I feel like wait, I think I just got it was Garen on top and Akali on mid, and it was Viego in ADC, not Kindred or something, right? Not Lucian anywhere, nothing like this. They haven't made up for the ADC elsewhere. They've just thought we need to get priority on bot for Herald, and the Herald fight goes well, but the rest of the game doesn't. That would be a draft issue, but it does look like they all in on this.
I honestly still think that AB drafted this way, so they couldn't win against Mouse, so we couldn't extend our lead in the. It's just my theory.
Well, Why are you guys resistant to the AP meta on bot if you see the value in Herald? Because this is now my running theory that they're just all responding to the Herald plays.
I mean, honestly, I think one of the main reasons is just because. I think my ADC really dislikes that he can't deal more damage than like 100 damage with one rotation with like an AP mage on bot lane, level 1. So therefore he wants something that deals damage, which I really respect. But at the same time, I think that with the way we play, where we want to be really explosive from level 1, level 2, level 3, in nearly every single lane, I think that AP mages only fit into certain compositions, you know, where the stuff we play right now really fits.
Yeah, I mean, AP mages aren't really going to be good skirmishers until they get Lost Chapter, at the very least, unless something.
I mean, from bot side, at least, like my mid laner is getting his gold and like destroying enemies level 3 as well. But my point is just that, at least from bot side perspective, I think that we can play those champs, but right now we know how to get our leads without them for sure.
Yeah, because you're skill checking earlier than the item spikes needed for AP. Yeah, that makes sense. That's also a really, really nice way of saying you have champ pool issues. That's good. You're learning the PR.
Can I ask, are you playoffs, are you changing patch before playoffs? Will that be 11.15 or 11.14? Because you have one more week, 11.14, right? Do you know?
Actually, I have no idea. I just know that the upcoming rel patch, actually, I guess the upcoming patch should be for playoffs, yeah.
Okay.
Because I think I've seen on that one. So Syndra is getting a Q mana cost down. Cassiopeia is getting extra damage at an E.
Yeah, it's free.
You guys are playing mages bot lane. Like this is worrying.
Cassio's
but honestly, like you're saying that like Cassio and Syndra are gonna be like present in bot lane, you know. But
I think Syndra, maybe not Cassie, but
yeah, even with Syndra, you know, I feel like all those champions you can abuse them so hard. You just pick a mid laner who can prio. You have a jungler who pass into bot side and just dive them on wave 3, wave 4. Like. Right now, current bot lane meta, you can punish enemies so fucking hard if you just want to. And if you don't do it early on, the AP mage will be able to just one-shot the waves and you won't have another shot. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why other teams don't do it, because they don't see those like 10 seconds windows where you can like create something which can decide the full early game. But we know them and we abuse them.
I actually agree with Seaz there. It's part of why it's so surprising that there's so much AP in bot lane in Prime League, which Seaz is apparently just blissfully unaware of. Like, I actually do think they're very abusable. If you try to contest those waves strongly enough, you're now a manaless champion, and they're just going to dive you a bit later on. They'll never let you reset on that. If you do reset, you're never getting back bot, or it's the freest TP burn of their lives. Like,
Maybe it's a combination of the inactivity we were talking about before, about how a lot of teams are a bit more reactive. So, like, if a team picks an AP mage bot, and the enemy team doesn't punish it, then they look broken. So maybe that is a factor.
I mean, a lot of teams just don't know how to set up early game, right? Like so on my notes, I literally have like Shulker bad early setups, Penta bad early setups, Eevee solid with Herald grouping, then basically nothing else. But they do get good reset timings with jungle support. I have written down. Like I have a lot of teams here that just don't play good map setups in early phase. My note for Wave is literally just Aaron deserves better, but whatever. Free my boy Aaron. Yeah, I like the only benefit I see from this is that Herald play thing. But I ultimately do agree with Seaz. I don't think it's going to be a massive issue that they don't play these AP champs. I think maybe there are circumstances where you can add Ziggs onto it, but the way you're playing now through mid jungle, I don't think you're ever going to get skill checked on not playing an AP champ bot lane. So yeah, it's just a really nice curiosity. Alright then, so on the rest of your team, Rika's gotten a lot of hype, right? And we've talked a bit about Sheko Lad here. Do you have any opinion on the state of mid lane? Or is there someone that like Rika really respects here? Or what's your thoughts on Rika? I think he's one of the best ERL mids right now, so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not only that like you probably just see his gameplay, right? So you don't have like any insights, which really contributes to how good the player is or how bad he is. And I think with Steven, he's like not only mechanically insanely good, he has like a variety of champions so he can pull out whenever he wants to, but his macro knowledge is also like outstanding, Like this guy analyzes every single LPL bot where he comes to a point where we review. Like this guy just brings up, at LPL game 2 LNG versus FPX whatever, at minute 17:41 they did this. We should have done that. Like I think this guy knows a lot about this game, and it's a blessing to have him here.
Yeah, I do think that was somewhat obvious that he's definitely a guy who studies the game. Because last split, the way most mids that were playing in a similar team to yours last split would just like drop everything they can to try to either snowball or play really heavily for the wave while Karim is monkeying whatever side of the map he was monkeying at that point, right? But Rika always seemed to think, where is the hole in our map state right now and how can I best plug it, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't see that from mids. You just don't really see ERL mids like thinking that way, like how can I make it so that all 5 of us are being better off right now. But with Rika, we got that. And now he's joining in more on the plays, but that doesn't mean that he's, like, nerfing the map state for it or something. Like, this guy's clearly always really intelligent. So I'm not surprised to hear that he literally, like, studies VODs and stuff. Kind of surprised it was LPL, but yeah. I'm not surprised to hear that. Alright, so, which teams haven't we really talked about yet? So we talked about Big, talked about Penta. Unicorns of Love, then. Do you want to talk about Unicorns of Love? Orcs, do you have any thoughts on unicorns?
I feel like I think Decay's looked okay. I feel like I haven't got too many positive things to say around that. Like I feel like Kadir's been a bit unimpressive. I think he's been trying to like make things happen a lot, but I think a lot of the plays have like backfired, and it kind of feels like he's just spur of the moment trying to make a play happen, or he's putting a lot of attention towards sleeping to try and get him snowballed. Is the general gist of it. I feel like they can do well with a lead, but I don't feel like they're the best at getting themselves to the point where they have a lead. It's kind of like if the plays work, great, they're in a good spot, they can do well. I think Decay and Jinjo are pretty strong carries when they have gold, but again, it's like the process of getting there. I feel like they're missing.
I mean, what Seaz was saying about how an easy way to get around AP mages on bot, for example, would be that you like stack wave, play mid jungle into bot dive, was like a very specific way of thinking about how to play to a side lane. Don't think Unicorns of Love have ever had that thought. I think they've had that thought of it's probably good to gank top here, and then gone in with that. And then it is incidental if the rest of the map is there for that, right? Like these guys will pick like Lee LeBlanc and do the thing that I hate, which is they never actually play Lee LeBlanc and then do anything on sides with that. And that's like the big issue with them. That's what will always drop them to a team like Big. Because otherwise, this is one of the few teams that actually had good early setups in their first clear. Their first clear didn't just lose them the game. Like I remember Shulker had a clear when Obsessed was on Lilia. But basically, I think they had like Kalista bot on this, and then they get Leash on bot side and move top side to a lane that has no chance of winning it anyway. So now you're just playing jungle into 3 losing map states based on your initial clear, right? But Unicorns of Love will never do that. Unicorns of Love actually do draft in a way where even if they're going to play really heavily towards top side, they are at least not going to fuck up the entire map state doing it, right? And on that, I think they're pretty smart. But then on actually executing it with all 5 people, they aren't smart about that at all, and that's where they start losing. So like even against like Pentanet, just because Phantomless knows he needs to make up for this issue on his team and actually actively picks and plays to make up for it, they'll end up losing because they meet like a 3-man on top, right? Or versus a Gamer Legion, they'll meet somehow Wisdom is top again, and Hjarnan can't possibly be Dove because he's on Zeraf or something, right? Like this seems to be the eternal problem with them. They're like halfway there to playing well, you know? They're halfway there, which isn't good enough to be playing well, but they're halfway there.
Yeah, I think for UL it's like a very specific case. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how many games they lost. It was like 0-7, 0-8, something like that. But I don't know. Like I feel like in general when you actually like I'm not used to losing, so maybe I'm like the wrong person to judge this. But every time I lose, I get like insanely mad. I like have to rewatch what I did wrong. What can I do better? Like I
Yeah.
need to see what went wrong, you know. And I think if you actually lose like this, then there should be like a swing where, or like a switch that you can pull where you know, okay, fuck, this went wrong. We have to put focus on this, and it will never happen again. And
Sure.
we come like we work from there, you know. But for me, it was like whenever we played them, they like the players are not even bad, you know. Like this can easily be a playoffs team easily, from the names.
Yeah.
But I feel like that the way they read the map oftentimes was just really really bad. Where we took objectives, they were like watching us taking the objective, and then we took a fight because they were standing there watching us, and we won the fight, and the game was over. Like stuff like this, it's like very very weird to me. Where you just have to accept, okay, we were too late to this objective. Let's move on. Let's set up the next play, cross map something, and this was missing the first time we played them. Not sure when we played them the other time. I don't even remember, but this is what standed out to me the most actually. That the map readment, like how they read the map was just not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, no, I actually fully agree with you on that one. And it is a bit of a shame because I don't think the individuals on that team are necessarily like really bad or something. There's just they're not quite there. But they could easily be. And that's also why I wanted to single them out because they do seem like a really rare case to me for anyone watching who doesn't know, like Unicorns of Love are currently like joint second to last in the league. If Wave wasn't there, they would just straight up be last. So it is curious to me because the other teams that are there, I don't view as having the same like positives that they do. Like not even close. Like I think Schalke do deserve to be down there right now. Actually, let's talk about Schalke a bit because I've said a bit about what I think goes wrong early for them. I think that what ends up happening and the only chances that they end up having to come back are like Tolerant and Yopper basically just try to set up very cheesy picks over and over again. And if those end up translating into enough gold, maybe they'll win a fight around a neutral objective or something. But if they don't have that going, I don't really see that they have much else going for them. Seaz might remember them demolishing Rika in 0.2 seconds at a Herald, for example, a game that they were completely losing and they dropped like 50 waves to set up that play. But yeah, like that's how they end up playing out. What do you think of Schalke?
When Midtbanner visited the Pixel Bush, we know that
Yes.
that was there. Okay.
Yes. That one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that Schalke is a team where, as you said, Todoran and Joppe have to get them somehow ahead. Last bit, they were plugging holes with Nuclear because I think he was really, really good mechanically, and having a jungler like Obsessives by his side who can explain like the map to him, or like the whole macro if he can overtake of this. For what I've been told that he does that, then it's really good for a rookie. I don't even think the Spyro is this bad. I think it's like really solid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's just something missing, you know. Like as I said, I feel like Schalke is a team where they set up one play. If it works, they will probably win the game off that. But lately it didn't, so they just lose the game in the next 15 minutes.
I mean, so a typical Schalke game is Schalke and specifically Tolerant and Yopper basically like struggling to try to get everything going back in order. I feel like the Schalke games that are wins, which is definitely not a typical Schalke game, Zweiru is actually the one popping off. Like every time that they win, this guy has made a monster outplay on mid or something, and it's just hard snowballed. I remember there was like an Irelia game where he was just perpetually making things work somehow. So I do think this guy does look individually very good. What I think's missing from them is actually macro. Like they just don't seem to have any. They don't seem to understand the map states that completely expose them or not. And so they are reliant on individual skill. Top is an irrelevant role on that. Their bot lane, like we read between the lines about what you said really earlier on in this episode, isn't necessarily going to be where that is either. But if mid lane pops off, then they do actually have a fighting chance. Definitely shouts to Zweiru, because I thought he looked really good mechanically in Italian League as well. It's just he didn't really have a good macro sense there, and this doesn't seem like a team that has good macro sense as 5 either. So I feel like the area he needs to develop isn't really developing. There were games in Italian League where he would like in his whole team by not resetting properly or something, and here he has a whole team of that now. So it's a bit of a banger, but I do think Zweiru is really, really good. So that would be my take on him.
I think on a good team where you have sort of players who could teach him and sort of already know that, like I think he could actually really shine.
For sure.
I don't think they're gonna recover this season.
For sure. I mean, how much do you think that matters in CS? Because you alluded to before that like Kadui's obviously really experienced, and you're playing on a very experienced organization when it comes to bringing in rookies as well. How much do you think the help that you got from the rest of your team, maybe even from your coach and stuff, if you didn't have any of that, do you think you would be able to develop into the player you are right now? A guy whose name always comes up in support discussions.
No. I think like I've everything I've achieved so far I have to thank for Big, and especially my teammates, because they just put me on another level, you know. I think this is actually pretty similar to my take on Lilith, because I think that he can actually be a pretty decent LEC support, because you just learn so fucking much when you play against good players, you know.
Yeah.
When you play with them and play against them, and when you just interact with people that are smart about the game, where I think that our coaching stuff is, you know. Like, I wake up, I get like 2 replays sent to me from my coach. Yo, what do you think of this matchup? What do you think of this play? And then we can discuss, okay, this guy just entered, or wait, it's actually really smart what he just did there. Like, you learn every single day about that. And I think this is like really, really great for developing, which I think I did pretty well so far.
Yeah, you get pushed to think about the game every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, how much do you think the fact that you went on a team that has really, really good players on it helped you? Because say that you went on a team with really bad players on it, I don't mean in terms of like the discussions happening behind the scenes. On the Rift, if you were playing with a map state that's always collapsing, do you think you would even have the room to be able to learn the correct thing, even if all of them were really, really helpful?
I think yes, but it would take way, way longer, you know?
Sure.
Like, because you would have to be the person yourself that finds out what actually went wrong, you know? You're like, okay, this didn't work, we just lost the game, why was that? While when you're in a team with players that actually are smart about the game and come up with those plans, it comes like naturally, you know? Where I think it's like a way longer process if you're in a team that falls apart, because you would have to step by step find out what was the issue, what is the real solution.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like you'd be spending a lot of time like putting out fires rather than necessarily
Rather
innovating.
than developing yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. We haven't talked about ESG at all then, or Euronics. What do we think about them then? Is there anything significant about their bot lane to talk about there, Seaz?
I actually think Tazaku is not even that bad. Like, this guy is probably, as far as I know, around 1k 24/7. Like, this guy is really, really solid. And I think it's one of the main reasons why they won some games. And I think Panda is probably one of the weakest supports in our league. But as a bot lane itself, they usually do their job pretty well. I think they're reason why the team is doing well, actually.
Okay. Orcs, what do you think?
I mean, like, well in terms of ESG, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, they're not wave. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bot lanes look fine, and like in lane, I think Panda, the issue I have with him is he was dying quite frequently. like getting caught out. And also, it felt like he wasn't as sharp as the opposition on roam timings. I wasn't really impressed with him like out of lane, but I think in lane, him and Tazaka were pretty fine. Um, I think jungle top, I have some question marks. Um, I feel like Llama Bear hasn't been too much of a presence on the map early. I think Venter was being pretty underwhelming, and I feel like honestly, camping top feels kind of free against this team. I feel like teams who can play heavily through top lane, like Mouseballs, could probably do this. I think
Unicorns of Love.
Unicorns of Love would win this matchup. I feel like hands down. I don't actually know what their head to head is, but I feel like that seems like such a free avenue just from their games. It feels like he just kind of
Yeah.
flopped a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Venter seems to frequently be on bad waves, and no one on his team seems to care. Unless they're going for Herald, no one on his team really seems to care. And it does seem to be like the big weakness of the team to me. That's why I was interested in the CS Fulton bot.
I think in general the ESG case is a bit weird though, because you have to keep in mind that I don't know if you followed Premier League last split, but ESG I think ended 9th or 10th. I'm not sure, but they lost the place at the very last match day because they lost internet. They talked to the admins and were like, "Yo, can we reschedule because we just don't have internet?" And it came down to Penta like being fine with rescheduling the match, but they said no. So basically it came down that they lost a lot of points there, and since they don't, I think they didn't make it like that far up, they're probably relegating now. So it's a bit weird, you know.
There you go. Alright. I actually wasn't aware of all of that controversy, to be honest. But yeah, that sucks for them. Venter still gets caught on bad waves 24/7 though, so there's that. I don't actually necessarily think that is Venter's fault, by the way. I just want to say. It's just that the entire map doesn't account for it, and there will be matchups where you will be on a bad wave at some point, and you do need to play with jungle or support there. I do think Panda actually tries to be there sometimes, but it's just sometimes it just won't happen. You want to say something, Ox?
Yeah, I kind of saw this as well with Schalke. Like, I do think that bot lane kind of sprinted a bit, but there was times where, like, I think they reset, the wave was going to push out, and it was like, they need they need support on that side of the map, and then there was just absolutely none. Like, I think they were pathing to the jungle was pathing to the side, and then it just ended up that this massive wave built up, and they got ganked and absolutely smashed to the ground. And I don't know. I feel like it's really rough as a player if you're left in these situations where like these inevitably these moments are going to come, and like you can't really do anything without your team helping out, and it just puts you kind of in a hole. But that being said, and it's obviously a mix of them putting themselves in these situations, but also not getting the help when they are in them.
Okay, so do we want to talk about Wave or just move on to the last segment? Does anyone have anything pressing to say about Wave?
Actually, quite interesting.
Okay.
When we were looking for a jungler, Linkers actually came to at least my mind. I'm not sure if the whole team was on board on that idea, because I actually thought that I still think that Linkers is really really good, especially when you look at last week. I think he had some promising matches for sure, and I think he, as far as I know, he did quite well in scrims as well. But for whatever reason, this split, he's just completely choking it. I don't know why or what's going on, but he seems to have stagnated so much compared to last split. I'm not sure if it has to do with the fact that he's playing with a new support now, or like with a new botlet itself. But this is something that actually surprised me a lot, because I thought this was like the strongest part of ad hoc last split was basically their top jungle.
Sure.
And this is how they won games. And now I don't know, they don't have like any really strong lane anymore. It's a bit weird.
I'm really glad you said he's showing it the split, because I was thinking, how am I going to politely disagree with him on this? Alright, only thing I'll add to that is free Aaron. Okay, so the last thing we normally do on these shows, Seaz, is that we make a super team. Each one of us goes individually on that. So we'll start with you, Seaz. What super team would you go for? And you can only have a maximum of 2 people per team. So you
Two
can't.
people per team.
Yeah. So you can't.
Be full big.
Yeah. It's a problem we get to avoid.
Okay, when I think about the super team, but can I write it down? 1 second.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean, write it down, but then say it out loud, obviously.
Yeah,
and take us through your thought process, man. Take us through it.
I mean, for sure I would have Rika in my team, right? So that goes out of the way first of all. When I think about top laners, stuff like Sartorius, who would be like perfect island pick, really good on weak side and does his job in team fights. But Melonic is just like very, very good at team fights.
Okay.
So I'd actually take Melonic, Rika, Pride Stalker, Unforgiven.
Oh! Massive
check.
respect.
What supports are there besides Camelius? That are like really good.
We talked about wisdom.
True. I would take Camelius.
Okay, okay. I'm quite surprised that your first words weren't, well, I'm going to take myself and Kadui. But yeah, no, I think Rika's that good. Fair enough. So, in your eyes then, Unforgiven is the second best? Or... Because you had Gadget open. Oh no, you had Sartorius Pride Stalker. You chose, yeah. Go on.
I mean, for me, like when I compare someone like Gadget and someone like Unforgiven, it just comes down to like preferable playstyle, you know?
Sure.
I know that like having the strength of like having a huge champion pool can be really fucking insane. Like I know that this guy can just pull out Swain and probably be the best Swain on the server. But at the same time, I think from my own playstyle, I really like the Stomp bot. I can easily like roam and stuff, walk to mid lane, fist fight with my jungler, but I like to win my lane. I like to get leads in lane. I like to get some turret platings, go with 1k in my pocket for my first base. This is what I want, you know?
Okay.
So I think Unforgiven might be the player who will be able to punish lane with me compared to someone like Gadget.
Okay. That's really interesting, actually. Especially because you characterized Camilius earlier as like someone who basically like abandons his bot lane, right?
But I mean, like I can't. Same for Wisdom, no? Like there's not like really that many support players who like to stomp lane actually.
True. Okay. Orcs, you go.
Yeah, top lane, I got Melonic. Jungle, are Vulcan. Mid, Rika. AD, Gadget, and support Wisdom. I think Vulcan and Wisdom would be a really strong jungle support combo playing the map. I think Rika and Melonic are solid solo laners, and I think if they can free up Rika, they can play easily to either side of the map quite comfortably. And I think Gadget is someone who you can play to find priority in lane and sort of free Wisdom up.
Sure. Okay. All right. It's a hard one actually, because I would probably take the Akabane Seaz Giro if I wouldn't have to give up Rika for that. It's hard actually. Okay, so I'll do... I've seen you play a split where your jungler's not playing like Akabane has, so I'm gonna do Rika and Seaz, right? Now I've bypassed the entire Wisdom Camilius issue, right? I'll take... I'll take Sartorius top. And I have to go Unforgiven. Like, the more I look at this, it's like, if I didn't go Unforgiven, I'd go Hyanum, but only if I had, like, such little faith in whatever jungle pick I went. And then I think I might... Am I coaching this team? Because if I'm coaching this team... I feel like if you went with Kadir, but you had Rika on your team as well, then the areas of the map that Kadir doesn't think so hot about get made up for by Rika, and the rest of it gets made up for by Seaz anyway. So I feel like I have an almost perfect overlap if I do all of this, which randomly creates a team that works really well together as 5. I don't think I'm ever worried about Sartorius as well. You get to play animal bot lane with Unforgiven, and Rika gets to ensure that you can keep doing that, or Sartorius will give Rika more room to just play around you guys on bot. So I think that would be my lineup. Just has like a really nice Venn diagram where all of the flaws get cancelled out. The jungler is Kadir. I think that Kadir thinks about one individual play well, but doesn't think about all 5 people, but Rika thinks about all 5 people. and Sartorius is used to not being thought about at all. So we're suddenly in a really good state here. And then I can throw it on Kadir. I think with Pride Stalker it'll just be AFK, and I want someone who will do something, right? Even if what they do has flaws that have to be made up for by other people, that's fine if I have people on that team that make up for flaws. And Rika can do it, I know you can do it, I know Sartorius can do it, and Forgiven would love this team. So yeah, I think that would be my lineup. I also had to avoid making it really close to one of your twos, so that's why I'm always last. I can think outside the box. All right.
Respectable.
Cool. Okay, any last words from either of you two?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on. Do you need to shout any sponsors?
Void Water is really good. I have Red Bull Organic here. You can look at the banners behind me. These are like all our sponsors for big. Yeah, but
Yep.